Welcome back to Open Window Politics. Today we're going to be going through a hypothetical matchup. In this case, it's going to be a prediction between J.D. Vance on the Republican side. We'll be sticking with him. He's largely expected to be the nominee in 2028 for the Republicans. Things could change, but for now it's most likely going to be him. And then on the Democratic side, we'll be going with a candidate that is less likely to win the nomination, but still would be an interesting hypothetical matchup, that being AOC, Congresswoman from New York. So we're going to get started. This is based off of the 2024 presidential election results, except for the swing states, which are just in the toss-up column. Some things might change slightly. Like I could definitely see New Hampshire and maybe even Minnesota narrowing up a little bit if these two were the candidates. But regardless, it's electoral votes for that party. So I do think I'm going to get started on the West Coast and then move eastward. So I'm going to get the tilt characterization. And then I do think, as far as Nevada goes, Nevada is going to be an interesting case. I think that Vance, if it were between AOC and Vance, that Vance would probably have a better shot in it than AOC would. I think her more progressive policies would alienate some key voting demographic groups that are really crucial to winning an election. And I think that would be the case in quite a few states, but we'll get to those later. But I do think in Nevada, it would most likely result in J.D. Vance being the victor. Things could definitely change. Really, any of these tilt states could flip the other way. We'll be going through the other ones, sometimes even the lean ones, and occasionally a likely one will even flip. So just fun to do a prediction. And then as far as Arizona goes, I think Arizona would probably be pretty difficult for AOC to win. I'm going to go with the lean rating. Could be tilt, but for now I'm going to go with that. Arizona is interesting. Biden was able to win it in 2020, but in 2024, it was the swing state that went to Trump by the biggest margin. It was actually in the lean column, while all the other swing states were in the tilt. So that was a pretty significant win for Trump in Arizona. Biden was able to win it, so Democrats know it's winnable, but I don't think if these two candidates were to be the candidates in 2028, I think this is how it would play out. And then we'll get to the other half of the Sun Belt now. I do think in Georgia and North Carolina are probably both going to end up in the Republican column. Maybe even seeing North Carolina in lean. For now, I'm going to go with tilt. I'm going to bring Arizona to tilt, too. I'm going to make it so all the swing states are tilt. Could be lean for those two. Hard to tell. Very possible. And then that leaves us with these three Rust Belt states. These are really going to be the ones that could determine the presidency in this matchup. Before we do that, though, I realized I missed the little congressional district in Nebraska. This district was even able to go to Harris in 2024, but I do think AOC would probably not. I think it would be close. They've had a relatively long history of electing a Republican to Congress. That district, Don Bacon, seat will most likely flip in the next midterms. But I think if AOC and Vance were the candidates, that it would be narrow, but I do think it would be a Republican victory. And then we're going to get to these three Rust Belt states. So all J.D. Vance needs is any one of these states. That would bring him well above, especially if he were to get all three, to the margin. And in order for AOC to win, she would need to sweep these. Well, actually, she couldn't win because the Nebraska district went to Vance. So it's a complicated process involving the House and Senate, but I don't think that will be too much of a concern. I think that of these three states, Pennsylvania is most likely to end up in the Republican column, and with that, that's enough votes for Vance to win. And I do think it'll be interesting to see. I could see Michigan probably also ending up in the Republican column, but I do think of these swing states that Wisconsin would probably be the most ready to elect a candidate like AOC. So I'm going to go with that. And really, it doesn't matter. It's still an electoral college victory for the Republican, J.D. Vance. But this is kind of a fun, interesting hypothetical. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.